Hi, Meredith. Welcome to the Retail Whore Podcast.
Hi, and thank you, Michelle. I'm
You're,
excited to be here.
you're so welcome. You were just about to say you hope your dogs don't bark. I have three dogs, and my husband has built me an office out in my backyard, which you can kind
Lucky you.
of, but it was to get away from the dogs, but you
Yeah.
still I realize now you can still hear them. So it's really, it gave
Well,
me
I
my
have one here and then I have three downstairs. So we'll
oh
see
my
how it
gosh,
goes.
you have a big
Yeah,
little posse.
we have a
Um,
little farm.
a little backstory is, people know I do the buying for Burt's Pharmacies and San Pedro Pharmacy I used to, and your husband and yourself are friends with Marshall that used to own San Pedro Pharmacy, and that's how I met you and
Yes.
stayed in touch. And I adore watching you through Instagram. And when I reached out to you, it was like, because I think people always say they love shopping in pharmacies, like they don't like the pharmacies, I think, that do it right now. It's really about creating an atmosphere and creating a retail space within a pharmacy that people, it's a captive audience. So it's like, why would you not? And your space that you had prior was amazing. So, but before we get into that, tell everybody about yourself and your brand.
Okay. Well, my brand has been around a long time. And I have been in retail. I was thinking back, my first show, this is really going to date me, was 1990, probably
Wow.
before half of these people that are listening today were born. Yeah, before a lot of things. But yeah, 1990. And I got into the retail business kind of by accident. It's like it looks like I've always done this and my family was in retail, but that is not the case. Because I married a pharmacist and we each had our own careers. And I worked in advertising for many years. And just, you do your thing, I do my thing. He was always busy doing pharmacy, and he liked to buy and sell pharmacies.
Mm.
And we lived in New York for a period of time. And then when we moved back to LA, long story short, buying and selling in the 90s or even the late 80s, there was a lot of pharmacy flipping going on. It was such a long time ago, Michelle. Um, there was barely healthcare insurance. That's how
Wow.
long ago it was.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. So much has changed in the last X amount of years. I can't even count that high. And so he bought and sold pharmacies, and he flipped them and modernized them. And that's probably how we met our mutual friends, Marshall and Mike Stern, if you know who he was, at Dana Drugs. And there was a whole posse of us.
Yes.
And anyway, so long story short, he ended up buying a store called Fair Oaks Pharmacy in South Pasadena. And we were busy living on the west side, and I didn't even know where Pasadena was, let alone that there was a South Pasadena. And everything, and it seems like in that 1 minute everything changed in our whole lives. And I had I had absolutely no clue I was going to get into retail. And probably better that way. I was still kind of living my marketing and advertising life and working in ad agencies. And but what was interesting is that the people in South Pasadena, we bought this old pharmacy, and it had been there literally since 1915. And
Wow.
that pharmacy is still there today.
I mean, I know that it's an iconic spot. It's on Route 66,
Yeah,
66. And I mean, it has a full soda jerk fountain. I mean, it is iconic. And
it's iconic.
I will tell you, when you guys owned it, I remember going there with, I forget who I was with, but the one thing I take away was like, holy shit, the amount of display that you did was, I mean, it was like beyond over the top.
Yeah,
I mean, it was
it
so
was.
cool. Like, and I just remember because I think for a time, one of the guys that used to work with us at Z Gallery, Ron, worked with you. And
Yeah.
I think that, he would talk about doing setups, and they were like, your fourth quarter ones were weeks in the making.
Yeah, they were. They
Did
were.
When you guys took over the pharmacy, it had the soda fountain? It didn't have the soda
No
fountain?
soda fountain.
Wow. So you added that. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't want to take up the whole hour because it could. We purchased that store. Michael bought that store for nothing. And it was a pharmacy that had already, tapped out, seen its day. I'm sure you've seen a few of those in your travels over the years. It had a soda fountain. It had been the corner drugstore of South Pasadena, but years and years had, paid its toll, taken a toll on it, and it was a disaster. And I can just tell you that when we bought that store, there were things there that had been on the shelf probably for 30 years, such
Oh
as,
my God.
do you remember Kotex belts? Things
Oh
like
my God.
literally, and they had a life-size poster, a cutout of Tom Selleck as the Marlboro Man. Literally, that was how they displayed things. So but what happened was the community was so excited that somebody bought the store that was under like 50, 80 at the time, let's say. We were young, it was a while ago. And they were really excited that some young people had bought the pharmacy and hoped and that something would come of it. And, we were young and completely thinking that we could do anything in those years. And people were bringing us pictures of what it used to look like. And they would come crying to us like, oh, I used to work here and we used to have, ice cream and blah. And so Miss Marketing, the wheels started turning. And I said to my husband, this could be kind of fun. Why don't we look at putting this store back to it in its glory day? And that's what we ended up doing. And it took us 2 years to do it. And so when you think about how over the top it was, my role model, my inspiration was Disneyland's Main Street. And you could probably,
good job at creating that.
I spent days and days and days taking pictures. I have snapshots of every corner of every inch of Main Street because I really wanted to, bring that vibe to the store. So we ended up putting in a soda fountain. And the thing with the soda fountain was that pharmacy, that soda fountain, we bought everything from a store out in Joplin, Missouri. You got to remember, no internet, right? No internet. We found it in a newspaper ad.
Oh my God.
Yeah, crazy. And we trucked it all out to
It was
LA.
the original soda fountain.
Original.
Wow.
And the funniest thing about it, because we were on Route 66. Well, the store we bought in Joplin was also on Route 66. So we sort of felt like this is meant to be. This whole thing is like beyond us. And we just treated that store like, like it was an iconic, piece of history, because it really was. It really was.
How long did it take you to build up that inventory for the props? Because for the people that are listening, I mean, it is hard to explain how over the top and this was no small investment. Like it couldn't have been and the other, as a merchandiser, where do you store all this?
Yeah, we had storage. We paid for storage.
Okay.
We were up the street storage. We had storage units. We could never have kept it all there.
I mean,
it was over the top and it was fabulous. And that put us in a situation like almost overnight of being a really viable retail business. And I just call it good luck because honestly, Michelle, I didn't know what I was doing. Honestly, sometimes it's better. I will say to your audience, sometimes it's better not to know. Just trust your instincts. Just do what you feel is right. Because if I thought about it too hard, we never would have done what we did. Would I do it again today? Never. No, it's another world. It's a different world today. Scaled down.
I mean, also the scale of it. I mean, it's like that to me.
It was crazy.
Would be daunting. It's just the.
Well, I hired experts. I knew immediately that I had limited skills. I knew how to do I didn't even know how to do a buying thing. My very first order was a company called Applause. Do you remember that?
Huh? Yep.
Okay. Free everything. And I started ordering because I love Disney, I was ordering Mickey Mouse plush thinking, oh, this will be good, and that's how I didn't know what I was doing.
So the first gift show you went to,
LA.
Did you have any, you just show up at the show and it's just start writing orders?
Well, I had a mentor. I will
Okay.
say I had a mentor at the time who owned a store called Roxbury Pharmacy.
Yeah.
Remember Roxbury? I don't know if you remember Robin Bateman.
Yep.
We're talking old days now.
Yeah.
She was very kind to me, and she helped me just figure out how to do some of this.
That's
So
amazing.
it was amazing. We became good friends over the years. So my very first gift show, I think I just never closed my mouth. I was like the whole time, right? I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I didn't know what a budget was. I didn't know what open to buy
That was
meant.
my
I
next
didn't,
question.
yeah, no.
So you just
Nothing.
bought what you liked.
I
Would you?
just, I did, but I tried because thankfully I had a marketing background. Thankfully, I'd put in like 12 years or so in advertising agencies, big ones in New York. And I had an inkling, that's like, you have to get to know this market, like I kind of played it like I did when I was in my, an ad executive, and like, who's your client, what's your customer base, what's your
Oh,
market, what does their demographic look like, blah 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 blah. So I tried to at least, and what are you trying, what's your message, what's I was very much like on the aspirational type of, and that's why we got so crazy with props and everything.
so
But
the pharmacy, in comparison to the gift shop, the pharmacy was relatively small, right? If I remember right, it's like
the pharmacy is always in the back,
a little room,
a
or like,
little room.
with the over the
Yeah,
counter stuff, and then the counter. But the gift part of it was, I mean, if you had to
massive.
break it down in a percentage, was it like
The funny thing was, I would say 70% gift and soda fountain, 75% gift. Don't forget the soda fountain.
yeah.
And then maybe 25% pharmacy. But, but then I would also say the opposite was true for the income. The income really was the pharmacy, way more than the front end.
It was.
Absolute. And that still holds true to some degree today, not as much.
I mean, like with my pharmacies, what I really realized is that, you have the over the counter stuff, and then you have is it DMI, which is all of the DME, all the wheelchairs, and, the compression socks and all that. But then there is still a large amount of dead space. And it's like for the pharmacies that have done it and taken advantage of knowing you can't fill the entire space when you have big spaces, like with all of that, the pharmacy stuff, like to really like play up, the gift end of it. And, I know your pharmacy, much like Bert's, you guys sell apparel and jewelry. And it's like, it's funny because that apparel is my number one department at the pharmacy. Number one. It's crazy.
Yeah, but it isn't.
And what's so funny,
So
we went to the magic show and we're there, and it's like, you go up to showrooms and, they're always like looking at your badge, and it's like, and where are you? And it's like, we're a pharmacy, but, just to let you know, it's like apparel is literally the number
Oh my
one.
God, the explaining you have to do when you're wearing a pharmacy badge, right?
I remember I forget where it was. It was like, I was at a women's show, and it was like because apparel is very different than gift. I mean, I love some of my apparel rests, but for the most part, it's like kind of snotty. And,
Yes,
you go to a regular fashion week, and, you're a pharmacy, and there's lines that you want that, will do well, and you get kind of attitude. And it's like, now I said to Erin, because I'm training Erin from Bert's, I'm passing the reins over in January. I'm gonna leave Bert's, and it's time for her to take it over. It's like I've been with her for 7 years. So
wow. Okay.
where I'm like, just to let you know, like, you're gonna run into those people. And I said, I used to be really offended, and I'd get really like kind of puffed up about it. I'm like, look, we do a lot of money in apparel. Now I'm like, I kind of tend to take the passive aggressive state. It's like, hey, look, I know we're a pharmacy, but I can tell you right now, apparel's our number one department. Rather, because my old Fred Siegel mind starts to get, like, all that puffed up, like, what are you talking about? Like,
I do.
dial it back, Michelle. Like, you are a pharmacy. But it's I had to tell her, it's like, you're gonna run into reps like that are like, yeah, we don't think our stuff is appropriate for a pharmacy.
We don't work with the pharmacies. We don't, I've heard it all. And I used to bring with me to the gift shows literally a notebook full of press and full of you have to, and pictures.
Yeah.
And, because there was definitely an attitude in some of the, not so much now.
Yeah.
Things have changed dramatically. I don't know if you notice it now. But it used to be like a game, like I'm going to get this line. And, I had a lot of trouble with it. I had trouble. And even I remember when I wanted to get Beanie Babies.
Oh,
it wasn't about being a pharmacy. They just didn't want to open another account in my area. And, like I had to like work it until Beanie Babies.
Took me back on that one.
Yeah. Oh my God. I know. Over the years, I feel like I've seen every trend come and go and come again. Not beanies, but things that you just thought were never going to be popular again start showing up again.
It all comes back around.
It does. It does. And the challenge is making it fresh for a new generation.
Yeah.
Because what they think is brand new, you're like, oh, again, and yet you have to get excited about it. I try to, that's my challenge these days, is to keep things exciting and keep things new for the newer generations.
Yeah, it's I learned a long time ago at Anthros, like to embrace the things I don't love, and now it's like, okay, I'm gonna make this damn thing look so freaking good, it's gonna sell out, and it's like, and then I don't have to deal with it ever again. It's like, now we got to reorder it.
Exactly.
Now it's coming back times 10.
Or the things that you thought you'd never reordered become the best thing in your store for a while.
It's like,
right,
okay.
Which cracks me up too. But I just think it's really, if you can get your ego out of it, it goes a lot better.
Yeah,
it goes a lot smoother.
That's the biggest lesson. I mean, that I learned that with breads. It's like, take the ego out of it. It's like, now it's like, it's just a shop. It's just retail. It's just like, settle down, Michelle. When you guys decided to sell Fair Oaks, you started this line that I'm like, say what? Like, I had no idea. Like, okay, I get all of a sudden, like, where do you put all your energy? Because you've been doing this big thing for so long. Like, when you closed it, did you find all of a sudden, like, what do I do with all this time?
We were on a very long process of closing and selling the pharmacy, because it just takes forever to sell a pharmacy.
I know.
It really does. It's a little different than other types of businesses, because you're dealing with the pharmacy board and you're dealing with all kinds of stuff. And I have to tell you, it took over a year to find somebody who was not afraid of that store. When you've got a business that's doing a lot of different things and you're dealing with somebody who's a pharmacist and just sort of wants to come in and be a pharmacist, you've now eliminated 90% of the potential market. So it took us a long time to connect with a buyer. And I had been working I did a lot of consulting for the California Gift Show back in the day when I was working. I did. Wow. I did. I was a pretty busy girl, kind of like you, I think. Yeah, I was pretty busy back then. And, I was working with the gift show and I was doing projects for them. And because I still had, I had my marketing background. And I really loved it. I really, really love marketing, and I love the advertising world even to this day. Not that I'm working for them anymore, but it was a very, it was something I didn't want to let go of, and I knew it gave me a little bit of a leg up, in how to handle buying and promoting business and everything like that. So anyway, I did that. But when I left, or when I was getting ready to leave, what was really popular was poker. And I think maybe you remember there was a big poker trend.
I don't.
Oh, shoot, you missed it. I mean, it was huge. Well, it was probably a few years before you were, there was everybody was playing poker. There were poker tournaments all over the place. And poker merchandise with, poker, chips and sets and this and that. It was very, very big. Wow. So one of the things I like to do still is make jewelry in my little creative space.
All your spare time.
And I don't do I actually just did something, but it was a Ukraine project that I can share with you later. But what I used to do was embellish poker chips with crystal.
Wow.
Swarovski crystal. Yeah. I need to slow down. You want to slow down? You take a toothpick, glue, and put crystals on a poker chip.
ADD would be so off the hook.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was something I really, I had to learn how to slow myself down, but I started doing it. It was kind of a fun little side thing. And I would put them in the poker chips we were selling were just cheap poker chips, and then I would drill holes and make them into necklaces and do kind of cute things with them. And the customers were buying them. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. So being who I was more at the time, I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. I had to create a whole line. I was like, there's something here. There's something bigger than me. And I did. I created Poker Chip Girl. That was the name of my product line.
How long did you have it for? Or do you still do it?
Oh, no, oh God. No, I don't do it anymore, but I did it for probably 6 years.
And you sold it to all the casinos. So
I did.
Were you the rep or did you have reps?
I did both in the beginning. In the beginning, I hired reps. Well, what I did was, and I'll just make this really quick. Nobody really needed another poker chip that had a number on it from a crappy, I'll just say importer. And what I did was I found out there was a whole world of poker chips that were made in prohibition era.
Wow.
Our country has a history not only of prohibition, no drinking, but there was no gambling. At the same time, you were not allowed to have any gambling going on, like legally. So a whole bunch of poker chips were made for illegal gambling. And these places, they were like, speakeasies.
How cool.
All the things that you would think of, you could probably do 5 Netflix, shows around this. It was very cool. And so there was a lot of these gorgeous old poker chips that were made out of clay. And what they were literally letterpressed on with images of things that were popular back in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
Wow.
Which still had legs. Things like, you remember you would see bulldogs in the artwork all the time? Well, there were bulldog poker chips.
Wow.
There were fleur-de-lis. There were moons and stars.
Amazing.
Michelle, you would not believe it. Someday I'll show it all to you. I'll do something with it. I still have a ton of it.
Oh
I do, because who really wants to buy thousands of poker chips from me right now? So luckily I have a big closet. Anyway, long story short, I did these chips. I found this whole world of antique poker chips. And that's when I started making the serious jewelry line that I did with Poker Chip Girl. And it was fascinating. So I did Swarovski crystal poker chip embellished. I did all kinds of different products. I did every kind of jewelry and fashion accessory I could think of. And I did a men's.
Making this all yourself?
Well, I had a few people working for me. As time went on, I hired reps. And, be careful in the retail business because a lot of people. Yeah. And people want to help you and do things for you. So I had reps that I had worked with, like in LA. And I had a rep up in San Francisco, and et cetera, just kept growing because it was popular. People loved it. I was doing magic. I was doing crazy. I was doing all these gift shows. I had a booth everywhere.
What year was this? The 90s?
No, it was 2006, 7, 8.
Oh my God. It was like relatively recent.
Relatively recently. And then what I realized, it was still a lot of my business was just coming from Las Vegas. So I decided to just focus on Las Vegas. And I said goodbye to most of my reps because it just wasn't really feasible to work with them. And I was on the road. I became my own sales rep. I did. What a crazy person.
My mind right now.
Crazy, really a little nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little nuts. Did it for 3 or 4 years, back and forth on the road. My best client, my best store was at the Wynn.
Of course.
They were ordering tons of Poker Chip Girl. And I was in almost all the casinos on the Strip. Crazy. Life was really it was great. And then all of a sudden, the Great Recession hit.
Oh,
It just
I
killed it.
wondered what,
Yeah, it
yeah, I
killed.
guess, yeah, the years of excess. Yeah, when I did think about
Oh,
it, it's like,
it was, it was it was an experience unlike anything else. That
yeah.
you literally went from doing really well to probably within 2 weeks, most of my customers had lost their jobs in Vegas. There were no more, everything
It's
just dried
so
up.
wild to think about that because it's like we
Yeah.
all lived it, but it's like, it was, I don't know. I forget where I was. I mean, I was already done with Fred Siegel, and I think,
Mm,
and now I think about it, I think just had started MC Design Collaborators. Back then it was Bird's Eye View. And that's when I was working with Sarah and Marshall. And I think that
okay.
must have been when I transitioned into working with pharmacies because they were the ones who were still doing the business.
They were still doing business, some of
That had
them.
to have been that time because it seems like now it's like, God, it seems like I've blurred all that out.
And it wasn't that many
Traumatizing.
years ago. Well, it was not a fun time to reflect on, but it taught me, there's always a lesson in everything. I try to go, what can I learn from this? When I was so all of a sudden I had it was like growing cobwebs on my, Swarovski crystal, like everything was done. And,
Wow. Have
you
you had a
know,
chance to use it in any other way?
I do a few things here and there and I'll put them into my pharmacy now, or I, make things. But until I did my little Ukraine bracelets, I haven't really touched it in quite a while. But it's still,
Interesting.
yeah, crazy, huh?
So
Yeah,
I remember hearing that you had re-entered the pharmacy world. And I
yeah.
don't know if it was through Marshall or if it was because I ran into you
You
or,
ran into me. I remember it was at, listen, I don't remember much, but we were at the Pinsky Portugal showroom
oh my
at,
gosh. Okay.
an
That's
LA
right.
show.
I remember I remember you.
Yes, yes. You and I had a nice long chat. I always remember it. And I
Oh,
was like, this woman is going to really are like a whirlwind, impressive, wonderful,
oh,
designer, and so
thank
talented.
you.
And
I
I
love,
meant to tell you that in the
I'm
beginning.
really lucky. I love what I do. I mean, I think
Yeah,
about I may be tired, I'm very much fringing on being very burned out. But I really, at the end of the day, it's like I really love what I do. And I'm
yeah,
so lucky that I get to go to work whether I'm tired or not and
yeah,
do something I love because
yeah.
there's a whole lot of years that I didn't love what I was doing. And it's mine now. And it's like you better work your ass off. But thank you.
Well, yeah, and that's a whole different way of life. It is something that feeds on. I know creatively it feeds me. There's
Mm,
still my creativeness, my creativity is still what keeps me there. Probably not much longer because I am now really getting to the point where it's going to be time to retire.
no,
Yeah, eventually,
really?
we're getting there. We're
I just
getting
imagine you guys retired. I don't know. I mean, now I did with the
there.
Marshall. It's so funny to think of him as
Mm,
retired and he still gets
uh,
dressed up every day. And I'm like, where are you going?
yeah, no, Marsha. We were like the young kids in that group, and
Yeah.
they're all retired and completely in another phase of life.
Yeah.
And now I feel like it's our turn. We're kind of like that. We're where they were, and it's the pharmacy business is tough. It's a hard business, and it's changed so much over the years. I don't mean the gift and part of it. I'm talking really about the pharmacy business.
Yeah.
And I think COVID has just completely,
Oh God.
been like I don't know what you call it, an avalanche, that just barreled through everything.
Yeah. For
And
I know with Bert's, it's like just still now it's like, I think, I talked to Erin this morning and she's like, I've got one person out and we're waiting for a test on another. And it's relentless. It's like,
it is,
I mean,
it is.
I know supermarket people were on the front line, but pharmacies really were literally on the front line. And the fact that you guys all had to still go to work day in, day out. And,
Yeah,
you've
still
people
do.
coming in that don't believe in masks or whatever, or are not going to say they're sick and they're coming in. And it's like, you guys literally faced everything. And it's like,
And with no training, by the way.
yeah, I just
Like, what?
I don't even know how. I mean, I really don't know how a lot of people withstood that without, talk about burnout. My God.
Yeah. I think for us, and it happened so quickly, and it really was overnight. Really, it was like all of a sudden, you're an essential worker. I don't even know what that meant. What's an essential worker? Like, what is that? Like, you mean like a fireman? Like, and you had to like learn, we had to educate ourselves, and we had to learn how to do things, like nobody had really ever put up, plastic barriers, in front of your cash register before.
Yeah.
And where do you get gloves? I mean, of course we sell gloves, but like all of a sudden everyone's wearing gloves and we're putting on masks, and the last few years have been crazy. They've been crazy, and they still are.
Yeah.
They really are.
I really this last gift show felt the most normal. Like, I still I'm not an anti-masker. I just miss seeing people's faces. I miss seeing people smile. I miss the normalcy. And it's like, I talked to my nail lady and she goes, all of you guys, Americans, and she's like, we wear masks all the time because we know, and because where we lived, the air is horrible. And like, this is just a way of life. And she goes, it was interesting to watch how most of you guys handled the masks.
Yeah, very maturely.
Yeah.
Really well.
Because it's like, and now it's like I see more people with them just on the everyday.
Yeah.
And it's, I think now it's like obviously become more quote normal, but for me, it's like I just miss seeing people's faces, like and smiling, and so it's I'm glad I go to work early in the morning where I'm not around a lot of people, so I didn't have to wear a mask all the time.
I have a couple of people in my store who I've not seen their faces almost in 3 years.
Isn't that I remember
they're just and I'm happy. Keep your masks on. My employees wear masks. Absolutely.
So do a lot of other places that are still I mean, Stephen Young, it's still mandated, and for rightly so, because you guys are obviously still within the front lines. But I digress. So you guys buy Webster's, and you decide to dip your toe back into the pharmacy world. Did you have the idea still to do gifts the way, and is your display at the same level it was at Fair Oaks? Because I have not been to your pharmacy, and I'm dying.
Okay, well, I'm going to invite you to come up. Now you just have to come up.
I need to go.
Webster's is I would call it a little bit of a scaled down version of what we did at Fair Oaks. So we don't do it to the degree of, I don't have a storage unit anymore. I don't do that. I have a couple of really fun props that we pull out and use a lot. But what I feel like my vision is exactly the same, with some edits for today, like the 2020, 2022 reality. I'm not going to do the things exactly as we did before, but I find with retail and with buying, and maybe you do too, I've always looked at it as sort of a music, like theater, like it's live theater. We're there to entertain. We're there to excite. We're there to show eye candy. We're there to be aspirational. We are there to bring vision, that the good old, you didn't know you needed it until you needed it and saw it, now you need it kind of mentality is always how I look at retail. And I have been able to make that happen again at Webster's. Webster's is another iconic business. And I think Michael and I, my husband Michael, who's the pharmacist and my partner, we knew how to do that. We weren't going to go in and do something we had no idea how to do. But that community really needed some life and encouragement. And the family that owned it, the Webster family, did an amazing job. And that store was opened in 1926.
Wow.
So we're again approaching a 100-year anniversary.
Wow.
Yeah, there's not too many businesses like that anymore.
No.
Anywhere. Nowhere.
No, there's not. And it's it says, so is the building historical?
No, I wish it were, because the building could use a big update right now. And the building is, the Websters sold the building to a developer on the west side. And there were some big plans for it that all fell through.
Mm.
And now it's been sold again to another West Side developer. And I'm not going to say anything about that, except that they don't have the same vision we do.
Oh,
And so we don't really, it's really unfortunate. I'm not really sure where they're going and what they're doing.
interesting.
But we are I'll say we're the anchor of the building, and there's not too many other stores in there right now. It's a challenging area because there are not a lot of other businesses. I have only seemed to, for some reason, end up in these places that are like retail deserts, and I end up being the only one there.
You're
Yeah,
a pioneer.
a pioneer. I mean, I could probably go into any community now and make a good, do a good job with a retail business.
Because you get really involved in the community.
Yeah, I think I think you have to, in my opinion, you really have to. You have to be a kind of a seamless person. I don't live in the communities I own businesses in on purpose. I kind of like the separation. I think it's important to not run into your customers everywhere you go every minute.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's that I need that separation. But I'm always like in Altadena, I've been on the chamber board. I've been the president of the chamber. I've been on lots of subcommittees, the things that they've done in terms of development. And I think if you have a business and you're a stakeholder, you need to be involved. You need to have a lot to say, because business owners that don't live in the community don't have the same voice necessarily that somebody who just lives in the community does.
So when for people that are listening that aren't involved, because I'll be honest, I don't know a lot of businesses that are involved in the community to that extent. So tell everyone a little bit about what the benefits of that is, and the importance of being involved, and maybe throw in how you would suggest to dip your toe in.
Well, I think, again, if you own a business and that's your livelihood, you have to own it holistically. You don't just go to work and leave every day. You make a name for yourself in the community. And I think a lot of small businesses do this. They'll sponsor Little League. They'll do donations to local organizations. They'll do fundraisers with the local school district. Those kinds of things are very important, because those are your customers. Your customers are the moms. Your customers are the families that are shopping in your store and getting their prescriptions filled in the pharmacy, let's say. They certainly can go to CVS and a lot of other places, and they certainly can go online, and that's for all of us. Shopping online has completely changed to me, the whole landscape of retail. So why come to me? Because they like me, because I am Meredith, and they know who I am, and I know their names, and so do all my staff members, and we care. We care. It's like, hi, Mrs. So-and-so, how are you today? How's your husband? How's your daughter? Did she have that baby? Are you these are the things that people really hope to feel important. So for me, it was a twofold. One is I just want to be involved in the community that I'm working in, because I'm spending more time in my community than I am in my home. And in my home community, I don't get that. Luckily, I live in the same general area, so I can kind of merge the two here and there, because I am one of those people who likes to get involved in her community. And I do a lot of nonprofit work, and I've been involved in different boards. And it's important. You don't have to necessarily limit it, but if you know that your customers are, like for me, I'm very involved with the Pasadena Humane Society. Well, they don't call themselves society anymore.
I love that.
Pasadena Humane. I've been on their board. I do this, I do that.
You have 4 dogs.
Well, when you have all these
4 dogs.
Yeah, I have 4. And, one of them, I have a cat. She came from the Humane Society, but we do fundraisers with them. We get involved with the community, with their customers. It all just sort of is a feel-good, important thing to do, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it. Now, let me tell you. Should I talk about what's behind me?
Yeah, because it's all about community, and
it is all about community.
I
Um,
was looking at that. Actually, I forget what you were doing on Instagram the other day, and I was looking at thinking like, I always, when it came to Newbury Park and buying some stuff for Newbury Park, I'm like, does anyone really care about wanting a mug from Newbury Park?
they might.
Yeah, we tried it a little bit. We did sell it, but like Altadena to me is a more like, it seems like or feels like you would have more people from out of town that, even though you may be in a different part of Pasadena that doesn't get the traffic, but you're still in a iconic city that has a giant event every single year that thousands of people come into
Oh, you
town.
mean that rose parade?
Yeah, that little thing.
That little thing.
That little
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. It's a little bit removed from Altadena, but we all know it, we all get the benefit of it. But Altadena is I call it an urban mountain town, an urban farming town. There's a lot of young people who've moved in the last few years that are really, liking the community and liking the fact that there's some land and they can have chickens and they can grow their own vegetables. And there's a big art community here, huge. A lot of musicians, a lot of, theater people, lots of artists. It's a very, kind of diverse community. And I'm speaking of diversity, it's a very demographically diverse community too. So that's been an interesting learning experience for me as well, how to buy for specific groups of your community. But Altadena, this whole thing is a outcrop of one product that I inherited. It was a license plate holder, and it said "Beautiful Altadena." And the Websters had been selling it for about 50 years.
Oh my God.
And all these people have it on their cars. And when I picked up when we bought the pharmacy, I'm like, oh God, I guess I better keep this thing around. Me, whatever. And we did another order of them. And the whole sheriff's department in Altadena has them on the back on their cars. And
Wow.
we sell I'll tell you, we sell over 200 license plate holders a year.
Oh my
Crazy.
God.
Okay. So Meredith, with her marketing background and a little ADD on top of it, probably still, I go, gee, I think I think there's something here besides license plate holders. I think we have more to sell. I think there's more here to the story. So about 3 years ago, we developed a whole line of products that say "Beautiful Altadena." And this is what it is. And we've got everything from t-shirts to coffee mugs to, socks and hats. And when COVID hit, I did masks that were like off the charts selling.
Wow. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, off the charts. And just worked with a graphic designer, came up with a look, and have been selling it ever since. And now what I do, just so you guys know, I pick a partner, a nonprofit partner every 6 months.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
I donate a percentage of our sales to that nonprofit. And therefore, that's what you do when you have a community.
I get on my soapbox every time because it was funny. I was telling my husband last night, somehow the podcast, along with talking to retailers and talking to creatives, like somehow it is also now crossed into people that give back and the importance of that. And, we had Tyler from Denique on a month and a half ago. And, I think it is so incredibly important as a human, as well as a business, to give back. And whether it's time or money or whatever, like donate, like apparel that you have left over that, that can be given to a women's shelter. It's like, I just think it's so important in there because I think that people, over the course of the last few years have kind of all become about worrying about themselves. And there is a lot of people out there that they're not as lucky as all of us. And as horrible as COVID was, and as horrible as it was, we all are still much better off than a giant portion of the community. And it's like, I don't know how you don't give back, and I don't know how you don't find time to do whatever it is. And I love that when I was reading your bio, I'm like, oh my God, I love how much you give back your time, and you did the Ukraine project. And do you want to tell us about your Ukraine? Wow,
I won't say it, but I'll tell it. So I don't know if you can see my little bracelet here.
Yep.
So this is my Swarovski crystal, and these are the colors of the Ukraine flag. And on the very tip of it, I put a peace sign charm.
Cute. I love that.
I think you can maybe see it.
Yeah.
So that war, that whole thing just sort of really hit me, and it hit a lot of people. It hit all of us hard. It just, especially in the beginning when we saw people being, forced to leave their homes and the horrific things that were going on. And, I said, I donated some money. I donated money on my own to a couple of organizations, and everybody was doing a lot with, the World Food.
Yeah.
God, the name escapes me.
And Gift of Life did. They teamed up with them as well.
And a lot of, and then I thought, I'm not the only one who feels this way. So when I get like this, I get like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And I just went right into my little office, my little jewelry place. And I thought, I'm going to make bracelets. I'm going to just make these bracelets. I don't even know what they are yet. And I have a lot of leftover product from my poker chip story. And I didn't have to buy anything right away. And I just started making these bracelets, and I thought, I'm going to sell them, and I'm going to donate the money. I'm going to donate the money. Like 80–90% of each one is going to go to, I chose Direct Relief, which is a really nice Santa Barbara based global charity that did a lot of hands-on work in the first several months of the war. And they also do a lot with medical supplies, which I felt was good for our pharmacy to get involved. So anyway, I did this. All of a sudden I had a ton of orders, mostly a lot of my friends and friends of friends, and I put them out at the pharmacy, and we sold and sold and sold and sold. So
and again, you're making these?
Yes. Yes, I had one helper, and I made and made and made, and we ended up donating $1,200.
That's amazing.
To Direct Relief, which was really a lot of money from a small little, business that is just trying to do something nice.
Yeah.
But again, I did not, I didn't do it. I didn't do it for the PR. I didn't, but I will take it. Because that's, again, being part of a community. Like many of my customers wanted to buy several of them and give them out to their friends. And that's how they felt they were helping. They felt they were getting involved, not just by donating, but giving, wearing this has really been meaningful. And I wear it every day. So
that's amazing.
That's something else I did. Yeah.
So I have to talk to you now about the gift industry.
Uh-oh.
What, not bad. What are some of your favorite trends that you saw because you did the shows this year, right? No. What is the favorite trends that you're buying into from your office pharmacy?
Yeah, it's a little tough, I have to say, because I was all packed and ready to go to Vegas and had all my appointments and everything I'm finally going back. I was so excited. And then I tested positive for COVID.
God, I felt so bad.
It was really a bummer. And so there went yet another whole buying cycle. Thank God my buyer went, who is a wonderful buyer, and she did really well. I will say, I don't really glom onto any one or two trends in my business, because I feel that we've got our own niche in what we do. So I feel like I'm really remiss in saying to you, I'm not really sure what, I know neutrals are a big trend. I know soft goods are a big trend. I know.
Well, what are your favorites for your store? I mean, what are some of your concepts then? Because you merchandise by concept. So
yes, we do. We do a lot of thematic. So in my store, what I did for the whole summer was a whole tribute to California. So that was my theme. It's adorable. I've got two old retro surfboards that we found,
Very
and
cool.
are up in, one is in my window, one is in the store. Everything is all about California and poppies. So
Wow.
that created kind of a, do you know the line Found Image Press?
Mhm.
So I did a lot with them because they had an Altadena poppy postcard, and
Wow.
we were able to create a lot of different products with it. It's done really well. And then of course, like a greetings from Altadena behind me is a different story, but there's some artists that are going around the whole country doing these as murals all over the
I,
country.
s- I think they went in Joshua Tree.
They might.
I think,
I think they do. They're
I think,
called greetings. I want to call them greetings art, but lovely, lovely young couple, super talented. They did this mural right down the street from my store. So
ah,
I had a, I just wanted to do a, like a partnership with them and sell what they're doing, which are postcards and things like that. But so we did, I do a lot with camping and hiking because that's a huge story right now, a big
yeah.
trend. And especially we have a lot of hiking right up the street from us, Eaton Canyon and
Oh,
Chantry Falls, and lots of places are right
I
up
miss
the
hiking.
street.
I don't, my best friend, oh, Lisa, who
Yeah.
you were, it's like she moved to Oregon. So, I don't have anyone. Dave's like,
Oh,
if it's not surf related, Dave's not going to go, but
oh, he's not. I have a
I,
few people that would love to go hiking anytime. Just let me know. We'll talk after.
I miss it. It's like, and I don't know half of the trails, and it's not like you just go launching off on your own, like
No,
la la la,
no.
like I would be that statistic.
There,
Michelle,
no, don't do that. But there's a lot of really good hiking in the area where we are. So hiking, one thing that I don't think it's really a trend, but we became a big, I'd say about 30% of my retail or more right now is books.
yeah, I love books. It's
Huge.
hands down one of my favorite categories.
Yeah. We have shelves and shelves of books because we're in a community that's pretty, I guess they're political. Let's just say they're woke. And when a lot of things happened in the last couple of years that because we're in such a diverse area, that I took a chance on bringing in a lot of like anti-racist books and books about, different demographics.
Love that.
Lots of African American books for kids, different, children's books. And we have developed a huge following for our
I
books.
love that and I hate to say
Yeah.
this, that I love that you took that, and I'm putting in air quotes, risk, because
Yeah.
I know I was in a store last week and she had a customer that was like, I need to go through this entire book and make sure it's a children's book, make sure there's nothing inappropriate. And I was like, what is she looking at?
Ugh.
It's like that, like, and she goes, we don't have it very often, but it's that very like, the book about I forget who it was, a senator's son or something that wrote the book
Oh,
about the
yes.
gay rabbit.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of stores that are like, no, 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 we can't touch that, and I love that you take that risk because I think it's like, it's relevant and it's within your community. It's like, bravo. Cause that irks the fuck out of me when people don't want to do that.
I've gotten more thank yous than I've gotten FUs. So I will say that we do. I've lost a couple of customers.
That
People
is
were
absurd to me that
I
people are like,
have
I'm not shopping here anymore.
transferred their prescriptions out.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess
Stop.
it's like this
But
podcast and the name. People are like, you know who your people are.
yeah, well, so I think that comes with age. I don't really care anymore. I hate to say it. I don't care so much anymore. If you don't like it, there's a lot of other stores. Go down this. Well, they can't go down the street. Go down the miles.
But I love
But
that
yeah.
you take that risk because it's, like I said, I know and I understand, but it's also at the same time, like, what do you believe in? Like,
Well, it's very hard when you're an independent owner of a business because you are who your store is. Everything reflects us. I know I don't go out of my way to be super political. And, my husband's best line is, look, we're in the business of selling product. If there's a number one book out, we're going to carry it.
yeah,
And that is true. You
yeah,
may not like that number one book, but that's what we do here. We sell books.
yeah.
So go to Target. They have the same book,
So
kind of
what is
thing.
your take on F-bombs and merchandise? I just have to ask.
I listened to your podcast yesterday. I know your take.
Which
My,
one did you listen to?
it was with Twisted
Okay.
Wares. Yeah, because I love her.
I got in trouble, so everyone
Oh
knows it.
well,
I didn't get in
you
trouble. It
know,
just was like, it's in the pharmacy world, yeah, it is the pharmaceuticals is what is the driving force of the business. And like Robbie said, I can't lose a pharmacy customer over an F-bomb, and we all know it sells. I just got a
yeah,
little carried away because you're as a buyer, you follow the
you
sale.
do, you do. Well, we have a lot of that kind of product, but I do keep it in the corner in the back of my store. People know where it is and they buy it. And you're right, when it's the first thing that sells, it's the first thing I reorder. It's what I hear people laughing. So for everybody that may not be, and yet I find things turned around a lot too. Do they turn them around in your stores? They literally turn books around that they don't like. They turn candles around.
We had I just heard this when Erin and I were at the show last time because it came up, and I'm like, oh, I wish we could write this. And she's like, oh my God, I guess I don't know if they worked for the church or they went to the church, but a big group of women came in and were taking pictures and everything. And we're gonna go to the Acorn, which is the local paper, and we're
Oh
it's
my
like,
goodness.
I mean, it was,
Ay,
so
ay, ay.
now I'm like, I don't even want to even look at like that. I mean, but it's sadly it sells, but
Well, it does. I think people have kind of, at least my experience in my store is that they've kind of eased up a little. I hear more F-bombs than I used to from people. I'm like, what? I mean, we have a whole display of Blue Q socks in the front of the store. I'm not particularly shy about what I put on that rack, and they just are selling and selling and selling. So
I had to ask.
yeah, I know. It's
So
it's
I
it's
love it though.
what it is. You got all kinds of people.
So because you're like, I always ask these last two questions because
Okay.
you are wearing a lot of hats and you're ADD like I am. How does Meredith unwind?
hmm Not very easily. I'll say that. I go away. I try to take a little trip. We just came back from a Central Coast vacation for a few nights. It did wonders.
Lovely.
I tried it. My mother-in-law always used to say, "Honey, you just need a change of scenery," and she was right. I need a change of scenery. So I try to get away and do things like that. And I'm like, I like to be I used to like to be in my garden, but now it's depressing because there's no water for it.
Yeah.
I don't like going in there so much. It's hard. It's hard. I watch, I'm True Confessions. I watch a lot of the Food Channel. I'm a Bobby Flay fanatic.
Mhm.
And not that I cook much. And I just, those are the things I do. I watch HGTV. I try to keep it light in my head.
And the last question is, what does the next 10 years look like for you? And
For me,
yes, you and Webster.
well, uh,
Might be a loaded question.
that's a tough one. You should have
How
asked
about
me
for you
10,
then?
asked me 10 years ago. I think Webster's hopefully will carry on. But I think, at some point, Michael and Meredith Miller are going to embrace what they call retirement and enjoy our lives. We have a daughter who moved up to the Pacific Northwest, who we don't see her very often, and she's very busy. And we're hoping, to spend more time up there. And I think that I'm always going to have my toes in the water here because I still, I always see myself, well, I'll still consult and I'm like, okay, sure you will. Maybe I will. It's hard to know. 10 years is almost wheelchair territory for us.
Hardly.
Feels like it.
I mean, I can say that myself, but I know
You've got to keep it going, Michelle. You've got to carry the torch, girl.
well, that's why all this, like building this other, MC Design Academy and the podcast, because hopefully I'm not a ladder at 1 a.m. at Bristol Farms hanging garland. Like,
yeah. Oh
like
boy.
that's the part where it's like, I love the idea of retiring. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I mean, I'm 57, so it's not like it's around the corner, but it's like, I also think like, what am I gonna do then? Like, by that point, I'll be so outdated on retail. Like, you either be in it to be able to still consult it, because if you're not, I mean,
Yeah.
I was in a store and it's hilarious. Like, there's a little old lady, not little old lady. She must have been 70, something like that. And
Hey,
she's
careful, girl, careful.
she's standing. Well, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 68.
See, you look amazing. You do not look anywhere near 68. That's why I'm like, retirement, what?
Yeah.
But there's
No.
a little old lady. I mean, she was 75 or 80, but
Okay.
she's standing in the store and she's like redoing the display, and she's changing. This is the way we did it. You have to do it like this. And I looked at, it was Crystal was my assistant then. I looked at Crystal and I go, oh my God, that's gonna be me. I'm gonna be like standing in someone's store telling, this is the way
You
I
will.
to do it.
I don't know about you, but I still have a thing about straightening card racks, even though I don't care what store I'm in. If I
Oh,
see cards out of place, I have to just quietly go around and fix
no,
them.
I won't touch that. I do
Don't do
go
that.
and straighten displays at like Target, like the Magnolia.
Oh God.
And I'm like, what has happened?
I feel that because aging is a beautiful thing in some ways, because you just kind of go with it. All of a sudden it does start to look more appealing. It's like I don't worry so much about what I'm going to do.
I love that.
It's just going to happen. It'll just organically be happening. I still manage to fill my days up, where I don't, even when I'm not working I do plenty of other things. So I feel like your mind and your body kind of come to terms with each other at some point.
Yeah,
Somewhere in my 60s, that started to happen.
I don't see you slowing down. And it's like,
Yeah.
I really, it's funny. It's like, even if you get out of it, I'm sure you're going to be very busy still doing a whole lot of other, especially
Well,
community things, I'm sure.
community things for sure. And maybe I'll make more jewelry, sell it in the nursing homes.
I love it.
Hey! I won't be able to do any more gluing. Those days are probably over.
My eyes are so bad I couldn't do that if I wanted to.
That's what destroyed my eye. But if you need to buy any Swarovski crystal, let me know. I have plenty of it.
Will do.
For anybody out there.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I loved hearing your story. I can't wait for people to hear this, because you have such a rich background that I think that so much of what you talked about today, retailers are going to be able to take away and utilize. So thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. It's fun. And hopefully I'll get to see you live one of these days.
Yes, for sure.
We'll do it. We'll do it.